the hill, knowing my help is coming from you. Times of the storm. Thank y'all so much. And thank you, Marlene, for those readings. Let me just touch on them one more time here real quick. First one is from 2 Corinthians chapter 4, or as your 44th president would call it, 2 Corinthians. His favorite book. Just 2 verses there. Chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. For God, who said, "Let light shine out of darkness," made his light shine in our hearts to give us the light of the knowledge of God's glory displayed in the face of Christ. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. The other reading is a brilliant brother. He's an educator, scholar. And he thinks a lot about how to get people learning. And as we discussed at least once, learning is really the best way to change behavior, to grow, to move closer. Now, if God is omniscient, every time you learn something you didn't know, aren't we getting a little closer to omniscience? And isn't that the point of it? So learning is important. Discipleship means learning. Discipline means learning. And so to that end, he says, and he's talking about schools, he's talking about elementary schools, he's talking about the public school system, but there may be some relevance. He says, consider that our babies are too advanced in their thinking to be successful in these institutions. These institutions that are too rudimentary to capture their brilliance. It's tough to bend to something far beneath you when you were created to stand tall. It is tough to be accepted by systems that haven't yet learned to keep up with your brilliance. And his name is, Christopher Emdin, brilliant brother. So, let's talk about this for a few hours here. No, but did y'all see in the news? Well, two things in the news. One, I just have to say this. You saw that Cecil Murray has transitioned forward, man. Yeah, really a great, mentor for real. But the other thing I saw in the news that was fascinating was that 99-cent stores are closing. Oh, they found somebody. Oh, okay, all right, cool. Okay. Well, you just ruined my whole thing. Thanks a lot. Practitioner in chief, thanks for rolling with the vision. No, I know. But they had to find an investor to inject resources to keep it going. Really, that's not what the business model is supposed to be. It's supposed to be people coming in, spending their dollars, and enough people spend enough dollars, and then the store keeps going, right? But why is that not feasible anymore? Think about it. My father's father came from being essentially a sharecropper in Alabama, got wind that in Detroit there was a man by the name of Henry Ford. Now, they were in Alabama harvesting plants, and they got wind of this. There's a different kind of plant in Detroit. They're harvesting cars, and my father's father, I wasn't there to know, but I know he was essentially a sharecropper, he and his wife, and I know that sharecroppers, by the time they got to go into debt just to buy the stuff at the beginning of the season, plant, work, sun up to sundown. Then when the harvest comes, it's not their harvest. They got to pay. And by the time they pay the landowner and the guy who rented them the tractor and the guy who loaned them the fertilizer, they would not have anything left after a year of work. But they got word, let's take it back to the dollar store. There was a plant in Detroit, and Henry Ford was paying $1 a day. Now, that was some money 80 years ago. That was some real money. $1 a day. And that was worth moving, uprooting 5 children. His wife's brothers came, a bunch of them came up the train, walking. Got to Detroit to earn $1 a day. Now, some of us are old enough to remember Detroit, they definitely had this. Did they have Woolworths here? Yeah. Once upon a time, Woolworths 5 and dime. Where the store, you would walk in, 5 and dime. Now, if you're making $1 a day to 5 and dime, we could do some shopping. But now, fast forward, what you gonna do with the dollar? The dollar store can't even do nothing with the dollar. I remember, now this is 30, 35 years ago, a dollar store was a treat. I went to Atlantic City and they had, that was the first time I ever saw, on the boardwalk, 99-cent store. You could get, it was special. You could get all kinds of oddities and souvenirs and mementos and pieces, and you could just shop in there. And $1 was a big deal. But now, not so much. So it's interesting. The things have changed, but things have not changed. What has not changed is I'm still trying to get the best stuff I can for the lowest price I can. That has not changed. I'm still looking for it. I'm still trying to get it, but see, now in 2024, you're just not going to find it in the dollar store. Matter of fact, if you go in a dollar store, they exist. They have some stuff. I don't know how the quality has had to, just in the society we're in, the economic system that we're in, what a dollar could buy when my grandparents uprooted their life for $1 a day, 5 kids, put 2 of them through college, kept them dressed, kept them, bought a house, then bought 20 acres of farmland in the suburbs because they just couldn't stop farming. $1 a day. They needed stuff, the best stuff they could get, as cheap as they could get it, and they were able to get it in the dollar store. Today, I require the nicest stuff I can find for the lowest price possible. That has not changed, but I still require it, but I'm not going to find it in the dollar store. Okay? What does that have to do with anything? Similarly, people have always and will always require what church provides at its best. A place to be one. I require wisdom, knowledge, faith to grow, healing, miracles, little prophecy to grow in wisdom, discernment, to hear a word, to sing a song, to walk in love, to connect with joy, peace, patience, you get it right? Kindness, hopefully in church most of the time. Gentleness, self-control, learning. They needed that 80 years ago when they shopped at Woolworth and you could get stuff for 5 and dime and you could get good stuff for $1. They needed love, joy, peace, learning, togetherness. We need love, joy, peace, togetherness. What delivered it 80 years ago, does it deliver it today in the same way? There are folks that would love to see, well, why does the 99-cent store have to close? Can't you get an investor to inject a few $1 million so that the folks that still want to shop at the 99-cent store can shop there? What about church? What do you mean church ain't, enough people aren't coming? What do you mean enough people aren't giving enough? You know, why don't you just write a grant and get some money so we can keep doing what we've been doing? That'll work up to a moment, but like I said, that's not the true business model and purpose. What it's really about is for it to exist and to be supported within itself. But whereas you could walk in with $1 and go on a shopping spree once upon a time in the 5 and dime, Woolworth, or what was the one called out here? Was there another one? Crest. There was Kresge, yeah, we had that too, Crest. All right, yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, when Crest was there and you could walk in, 35-cent hamburger, right, nickel for a cup of coffee, and 2 out of 3 Americans had their behind in church every Sunday morning. At that time. Needed stuff I need the nicest stuff I can get for the least amount of price, I can go to the 5 and dime. 80 years ago. I need love, joy, peace, I need connection, I need wisdom, I need guidance. 80 years ago, you know where to go. The need is the same, the value has changed. I still need that stuff, I can't get it where I got it. And similarly, we can't necessarily get it from where we got it from. I still need the kingdom of God is within. I still need I am. I still need the truth, you know. This passage talks about a treasure in earthen jars. And what it's essentially saying is, this is one way to look at it, and pardon, it was written 2,000 years ago. We know some things, didn't necessarily know then, but you can walk with it. What it's essentially saying when it talks about a treasure in earthen jars is that there is a spark of light. There is an imaging of the allness of the I am of God that is endowed in all of creation. Particularly, we find this in us. I mean, I'm talking to people, humans. We have this. They called it, so the jar is this earthen pot, this clay jar. And the treasure is what's on the inside, the God. That's one way to look at it, right? You know, and it's not just human beings. I mean, so think about it this way for a second. Think about dogs, whether you like dogs or dislike dogs. They have a certain, I mean, they're alive. They have a consciousness, right? They have an intelligence. But they are also limited by their physicality. You know, there's a doorknob. They can't always go open the doorknob, even though some of them can. Some of them figure it out. But for the most part, their physicality limits them from being able to do a lot of things. So they have this spark of godness in them that allows them to be alive and allows them to hear what you're talking about and allows them to play and allows them to give joy and allows them to live the fullness of life and enjoy food and all this stuff, to be alive. They have that, but they also have a limitation in their physicality. Now, in that sense, we're not so different. We have this allness power within us, but the allness that can do anything is apparently intentionally limited by humanity, by this corporeal reality, by my physicality. If I could just be God as God, I might not even be a physical being. But now let's localize it. So here I am, jars of clay. But inside of this jar of clay is a treasure. So the fact is, clearly, it's less about the jar that it's in and more about the treasure that is within. And that made me think about this. Sometimes we feel like, man, life can be hard sometimes, can't it? Yeah. Life is hard on us sometimes. That's what I was talking about. Perplexed, pressed, right? Beat down. But then I thought about it this way. Life can be hard. You think life is hard on you. I think we are hard on life sometimes. I think life, God, the isness, the power, you know what I'm talking about. I think that thing looks at us and says, man, I wish I could just shine. I was born to shine, but I'm trapped inside your fearful self. I wish I could share. I wish I could grow. I wish the abundance could manifest the way it's supposed to manifest, but your generational garbage. You think life is hard on you? We hard on life. So this is what these readings are getting at. What am I talking about? Here it is. The church does not enhance the treasure, that treasure within. The church does not enhance the treasure enhances the church. That's it. It is not, so You need to come to church. For what? This is what this scholar was getting at here in this reading. Talking about schools, talking about public education, talking about systems. And he said, have you ever thought that babies are too brilliant to be sitting in a school all day? I remember last Sunday, there was a baby crying during the message, and the mother got up and carried the baby out. And then a couple people went and said, no, bring the baby back in. We want to hear that crying. Why? Because it's not a disruption, really. I mean, in a sense it is, but it's such a beautiful sound. It's a sign that this thing that we have folded into, and we are playing by a set of rules that we might not even agree with, we've just adopted them, but there's someone whose light is shining so bright, they have not been programmed to play this mess. And we want it, we need it. 80 years ago, if a baby was crying, 3 nurses gonna carry the baby out, get some peppermints and all that. We said, no, bring the baby back in. We got too much vessel, and I won't say not enough awareness of the treasure that's within the vessel. And then you mess around with school or you mess around with church. See, it's already a treasure, a ball of light, something more valuable than gold, a piece of divinity trapped inside of an earthen vessel. Then we're going to take that treasure in an earthen vessel and put it inside a church, inside a school, another institution. Now I got a treasure in a vessel inside another vessel. You can't hardly see the treasure. Okay, so what do you do about that, right? I don't know. I'm going to get some chicken. Good night. Let's take a close look at what he's talking about. School, we're talking about church, all of these institutions. Do we understand that a school, for example, yes, it does endow some things. Yes, that's where I learned long division. Yes, that's where I learned cursive writing. Yes, that's where I learned a lot of things. I learned World War II, 1941 and 1945. I learned a lot of stuff in school. I did. But I also forgot a lot of stuff in school. Because you will comply, not comply with the treasure necessarily. You can comply with the treasure as long as the treasure is compliant with what the teacher says. As long as your treasure happens to want to never speak out of turn, sit still for hours in a row, eat when they say eat, take a nap when they say take a nap, take a test when they say take a test. If it's multiple choice, you better multiple choice. If it's essay, you better essay. If it's math, you better math. As long as you're cool with that, you're going to thrive. But if your genius, if your godness looks like something else. Some kids can't write, but if you said draw it, they would blow you out of the water. Some kids can't draw, but if I could deliver it orally, they would show you they might know more than the teacher. But the treasure already in an earthen jar got to be put in another earthen jar called school, and well, we get what we got here. Is church so different? Baby was crying out on Easter Day. Who knows what that was? Now we are adapted, acclimated, conditioned to, somebody, get that baby a piece of peppermint and quiet him down. Basically, develop, give it it's talking too much from the authenticity of godness, so let's give it an addiction to refined sugar, shut it up. don't know if the school is educating the kids. I don't know if the church educating the people is the best way. Can the authenticity of the people drive what the church is and what it's going to be? Amen. Can an idea be, let me tell you this is not so advanced. In order to get something different, you got to advance metaphysics. Do something different. So, different sounds radical. Well, we never did that before. We on the right track then. But no, we never did that before. We can't do that. We can't do that. That is saying the treasure is in the earthen vessel, and the earthen vessel is in another earthen vessel called a church, which is created by humans also. But by the time the treasure is already in a vessel. See, the treasure in the vessel is bad enough. Folks can't even see the treasure just in this vessel. But now put this vessel inside of this vessel, and it can be even harder to see. And I don't mean no harm. It's not just this place, it's every place. You mess around and get in any institution, including a church, I promise you there will be dysfunction. I promise you there will be ugliness. I promise you there will be, who was it? They smile in your face. Who said that? OJ's. Yeah. So they're like, well, let's sing Backstabbers next Sunday. No, what is he doing? We got to get him out of here. This is bringing me to, so if the treasure is in a jar, you can imagine, you know what I'm talking about. Treasure, that's the gold, that's the light, that's the shine, that's the God, that's the isness. Inside an earthen vessel who is limited, just like a dog is limited in certain ways and can't do certain things, can't speak. I'm limited too. I'd love to think, yes, the allness of God. But guess what? The dog has the allness of God. The cat has the allness of God. The cockroach has the allness of God. The rock has the allness of the consciousness of the vibration of God, limited by the physical form. But there's something, maybe I'm biased, but it seems like there's something special about people, though. I'm sure there's some orangutan somewhere saying, there's something special about orangutans. So maybe I'm biased, but there is something, it seems, that we can shine the light through the vessel. Anytime you put a treasure in a vessel, it's got to spill out. This is one reason why once people die, transition forward, whatever you want to call it, now all of a sudden everybody got something good to say about it. Because the treasure is no longer in the jar, we just got memories of treasure now. So, but is there a way to get it shining without transitioning forward? I hope so. Isn't that the whole point of the kingdom of heaven is in our midst right now? You don't have to die to go to heaven, but heaven is a state of mind. Okay. So if the treasure, and since the treasure is in this jar of clay, or it says an earthen vessel. Any vessel is earthen. Glass is an earthen vessel. The vessel has to become more transparent in order for the treasure to shine forth. All right, so what does that look like? Do we know one another's story? There is a French quote. I might have probably said this once or twice. Tout comprendre, tout pardonner. if you can understand anything you can understand, you can forgive. Anything you can understand, you can accept. Do we know the story? I was hoping my sister would be here. You know what I'm talking about, in the wheelchair with the baby doll. Vera, yeah. And she handed me the baby. And the first day I just kind of looked at her, I just kept walking. But then the next time, I kind of picked up the baby doll and I went, oh, okay, yeah, that's interesting. And then I put it down. And someone said, are we supposed to pretend like that baby is alive? But then the next Sunday, she brought the baby, and I went, oh, what a beautiful baby, wee, wee. And she just lit up. Now, do I know? This is what I said about transparency. Do you know the history there? Do you know the pregnancy history? Do you know the childhood history? Do you know what would make a woman bring a baby doll? Instead, so it's easy to say, that's not how we do it in this earthen vessel called guidance. But that may be one of the most authentic showings you ever see. That may be the God light shining. That may be a lesson, and not maybe. What's she doing in church? As if church makes the light shine. The light makes the church shine. And not only the church, the light makes the world shine. The light makes your home shine. The light makes you shine. Well, the thing about this treasure is, how much do you need? Jesus said, look, if you got a mustard seed of real I amness shining forth, you could say to this mountain, be moved into the sea, and it'll be moved. Well, identifying with the earthen vessel, that sounds a little ridiculous. And it sounds like, no, I'll go 50, 60, 70, 80 years, never really move a mountain into the sea because that's because I'm this earthen vessel. Or, that's never what this church did. That's never what this homeowners association did. That's never what this school did. That's never whatever. Yet, the treasure is present. So the real call to action is, old song says, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. And then we could just sing that song too. But think about it. The light of God, the truth of creation, the truth of I am, beyond, I said it. And this is in the same chapter. We're going to be pressed. But when it gets pressed, it says we're pressed on every side. Part of being human is a limitation. I don't care what kind of silver spoon. I don't care what kind of complexion. I don't care what kind of height. You will be pressed. But it's just the jar of clay that gets pressed, not the treasure within. Right. If anything, the pressing will force the light out. I don't know how many times I have my back against the wall, and then now here comes an old hymn out of nowhere. I'm trying to figure this out, perplexed on every side, and I don't know what's going on, and then out of nowhere, by and by, when the morning comes. Do you know that's the treasure being squeezed out? Where I can't live in a hidden manner anymore, but the truth, not of the vessel, and then get caught up in the vessel. And then now look at the vessel. Jesus said you can shine a coffin up all you want. You can shine a coffin up until you can see your face in it, but on the inside is nothing but dead men's bones. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. How can the child shine in school when school makes it be a certain way? That's why they're talking about revolutionizing. That's where Marie Montessori came in and said, well, just let them, just let them, just let them. Now, what about us? It's tough to be accepted by systems that haven't yet learned to keep up with your brilliance. Well, let me try to, and there's something to be said. I mean, we're here to learn. But there's a reason why. There's another old song. It said, you may not preach like Peter, you may not pray like Paul, but you can share the love of Jesus. They saying how he died for all. Let's say how he lives as all. What's the call to action? And you've seen this before in different buildings, in different institutions. They say, in case of emergency, break glass. Because behind that glass is the thing that you need. Maybe there's a fire going and the hose is behind the glass. In case of emergency, break glass. I'm not even talking about the world of society. Look at your world. Look at what the doctors are saying. Look at what the bank is saying. Look at what loved ones are saying. Many find ourselves in emergency, not real danger, but emergency. Pressed, perplexed, persecuted. Yet the answer is within. The answer is as. And I encourage you, in a time of emergency, don't be afraid to break the glass. Isn't there something, you've been here before, having a conversation with someone, and the conversation is just at a certain level, and it's polite enough, it's nice. But then someone says something real, and they say, oh, you just broke the ice, now we can talk. What are we holding on to here? Talking in it's a polite way, vessel to vessel. But I'm not here just to talk vessel to vessel, because your vessel gonna die, my vessel gonna die. The sand is slipping. But let's talk treasure to treasure. That's that namaste. That's that God in me acknowledges the God in you. And that's not conditional. See, I'm glad it doesn't say, well, the God in me acknowledges the God in you if you acknowledge the God in me first. How you want to play your vessel? How you want to squander your treasure? Because guess what? One day the vessel will crack and fall and the treasure's going back where it came from. But while it's in my command, while it's in my animation, I'm going to let this light shine. I'm going to maintain a love vibration. I'm going to keep it light. I'm going to keep it God. I'm going to keep it wise. I'm going to be what I'm made to be. The vessel is not a vessel just to be a vessel. The vessel is made to hold something in it, namely the divine true identity that is you. Less with the vessel and more with the truth of I am within as. Taking a moment now. However you visualize it. Here's one way to visualize it. Deep at the center of your being is a little ball of golden light. Work with this for a moment. Deep at the center of your being, a little ball of golden light. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. If it's pressed, if it's persecuted, it dims, but it can't be extinguished. Not even in death. Another scripture says, stir up the gift or fan it into flame. This looks like self-love, one, because what do I look like? A treasure in a jar, and I'm resenting the shape and size of the jar. I spent a whole life trying to get the jar right. And then the harder I try, the more I go in the wrong direction. You know what? I know how to fill guidance up. I got it. I'm going to dye my hair black. I'm joking. I'm going to shine. I'm going to identify not with what we see, but with the truth of what is, with the truth of what we be. Let that be not just words, good message. Lead with the light. Lead with the treasure. Lead with the abundance. Lead with the healing. How can I lead with the abundance? I ain't got no abundance. You have more. What you have could never be bought, first of all, and that is wealth. That is abundance. Christ also said, whoever can be trusted with a little can be trusted with much. So it's a fire. You only need one match. The Great Chicago Fire started with one match. You have a light to be applied, to be shared. Share that fire, you don't lose your own. You spread the light. That a cold and dark world can know the truth of the treasure within. Amen, Ashe. So it is.